Hi, and welcome to the Life Given podcast. I'm Isaac Lopez. In an effort to try to talk about something outside of the coronavirus, I wanted this week's show to be centered on topics that we can engage with and discuss with that we haven't talked about to the uttermost in the last 3 weeks. The coronavirus has been many things, and one of the things is that it has been a all-consuming fire. I think that it's really easy for us in just our daily conversations to focus on the biggest current event that we've probably ever experienced, and that is this coronavirus. So I can understand that there is just some exhaustion from discussing the subject, and So for this week's show, I wanted to talk about something else, right? I wanted to approach something with kind of a new lens, with a fresh look. And it's really tough to do that with the coronavirus. So I went and researched, and what I came up with was a bunch of coronavirus stories, right? Like whatever people are reporting on, the majority of it is the coronavirus. And the stuff that they are reporting on that isn't about the coronavirus doesn't seem like that big a deal right now. So I had to come up with something, right? I had to come up with something that we aren't already tired about talking about. So for this week's show, I wanted to look at what the coronavirus has revealed to us in the last 3 weeks, right? What has it shown to us? And there are a lot of things that I think it has revealed. And I want to discuss two of those things. The first is what the government can get done when something really matters to them. That's the first thing I want to talk about. And then the second thing in our second segment I want to touch on is where misinformation can lead. What are the consequences of being misinformed? And I think we got, unfortunately, a high dosage of that this week in the news. So that's what we have for today's show, and hopefully it reveals some new things that maybe you haven't thought of yet, or that will enlighten your conversations, or give your conversations a new charge, a new lease on life, if you will, this coming week. So for the first story today, there is a story that came out from Louisiana that this state closed down their 3 remaining abortion clinics temporarily, according to this article in the New Orleans Public Radio. They now join just 3 other states, as far as I know, Texas, Ohio, and Mississippi, to have taken this precaution as well. As the services that an abortion clinic offers apparently doesn't fall under the emergency ruling. It's kind of surprising. Tongue in cheek, okay. This quote, I think, kind of allows us to sum it up well. On Saturday, the Department of Health ordered all healthcare facilities to postpone medical and surgical procedures except for the emergency medical condition or to avoid harm for underlying conditions. It's intended to free up personal protective equipment like masks and gowns and hospital beds. Well, by all means, let's stop killing our children to free up these hospital beds. Now, I don't want that to be misconstrued. There was a bit of a kickback from people who are within the state of Louisiana who are concerned that this is taking away, the right to healthcare, the right that women have over their own bodies. And I think that this pandemic, that COVID-19, is really bringing a lot to surface. One of the major things that I mentioned in the introduction is what our government can get done. 4 states have now outlawed abortion. 4 states have now shown that they are capable, right, of being able to save the lives of children, and we're complaining about it. I think this quote from Pastor Sumter, Toby Sumter here in town, mentions it, sums it up quite well. On the bright side, after all of this insanity, governors who claim they cannot really do anything to end abortion will not be taken seriously. If you can shut down your entire state because people might get sick and die, you can shut down clinics murdering babies every day. And I think that's spot on. I think he's right on, that we're I think in the coming weeks we should be considering, okay, the nation is on lockdown through April 6th. The state of Idaho is on lockdown through April 15th, and Moscow here in Idaho is on lockdown until May 5th. And this is all for a seemingly good cause, and I think it is a good cause when it boils down to it. It's protecting the lives of people, and and right now, if you look at the numbers, the last I checked, it's I think about 1% in America. Could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But compared to the abortion epidemic, the abortion, the mass murdering of millions of children around the world, and let alone in this country, and we kind of push that off to the side. It's not that important. Okay, if anything, we have learned that the government can get a whole lot of crap done when push comes to shove. So something to just consider in the coming weeks in your conversations, and it's not to make light of the situation that we're in. I'm not trying to do that by any means, but do realize that this is showing and revealing stuff to us that in a normal time we allow our politicians and leaders to excuse themselves because it's too difficult or there are things in the way. Don't tell me that if we can remove those things within a week because of an epidemic, then why can't we do that for the mass murdering of children? So for this next segment, and for the previous segment, I want to make abundantly clear that I'm not making light of the horrors of our time, the horrific natures of our time, what we're experiencing. And I don't want to make light of that, and I don't want to make fun of, but I want to make I think some points that I think can be driven home in a time like this. That sometimes we don't consider it, and something like a global pandemic can jar us out of the way of our thinking, the natural courses of our thinking. So for this segment, once again, I'm not making light of this, and I'm by no means trying to make fun of this. I know that sometimes when people listen to other people talk, that's really easy to misconstrue. So I just want to make that clear through the podcast today, that in the show today, that I'm not trying to make fun. Okay, I want to tread carefully through these, but I think that this is something that we need to learn from so that we do not make the same mistakes again. There is a story that in an article from Slate.com that they released about how the title is "Hundreds Die in Iran from Bootleg Alcohol Being Peddled Online as Fake Coronavirus Remedy." And so this is where I want to actually, before we go there, let's kind of flesh out the situation a little more. Iran has been hit hard. It's been one of the most one of the foremost countries that have suffered from this global pandemic, and it sounds like it has recorded nearly 3,000 deaths according to this article, and they're in a time of mass hysteria, which I think we can tend toward in a time like this. It's really easy to hear about solutions and remedies to problems, and without the backing of experiments, science, and data, we'll jump at it, right? These home remedies, and apparently, according to the Associated Press, I'm quoting here, Iranian media reported that several hundred Iranians have died of methanol poisoning and potentially thousands more were sickened when they ingested bootleg alcohol with the mistaken belief that protected against the coronavirus. So apparently reports were going around that this British school teacher and others had cured themselves of the coronavirus with a mixture of whiskey and alcohol. This has been pushed around, and apparently nearly 300 people have died and more than 1,000 have fallen ill from drinking one of the many fake coronavirus remedies being spread on social media. This is once again from slate.com. And this story struck me as, I think, obviously it's a horrible thing. And it's just really sad that people are being misinformed, and when they're trying to protect themselves, they are so, they want to beat this thing so much so that they end up hurting themselves. And so this is the problem that I think we need to be aware of, and we need to be making sure that we're doing research on our own to make sure that we are informed about the situation at hand, that we are informed about the things that we need to do to stay in tune and in touch with what the experts are saying, and also what's good for you, right? You need to make sure that if you have a respiratory problem, or if you're struggling with the flu or other symptoms like that, that you're reporting that, or that you're taking the precautions to just stay at home. Make sure that you're staying healthy. And so the biggest thing that I want to take away is just the what misinformation can do to people when they are misinformed, right? And it's really easy to kind of maybe share something on Facebook when you probably don't really know if that's true or not. So I don't want to be scared about talking, about having conversations, but always, I think this kind of goes to show the importance of everyday conversation, and the importance of talking with someone and making sure that you're informed about what you're saying, or if you're not sure, to expressly say that. Right. Just make sure that you and the person or the people you are talking with are on the same page, that you don't know for sure. So I think that's something that we can easily apply in this next week when we're talking about, there's a big conversation happening right now in Moscow about trying to roll back the tax, and because there's the quarantine right now has been set to May 5th. And that's a huge economic deprivation to the city of Moscow, at least in the downtown area. So, and that's something that there are so many things, so many qualifiers that go into a conversation like that you want to be informed on it. So right now, like I want to do more reading on that, but I don't want to talk too much into that, speak too much into it, because I may speak out of turn and pass along something that's not true. So just be aware of that, and make sure that we're informed in our daily conversation, so that so that people don't get hurt from it. So in conclusion, I think that this time is helping us exercise and learn things about ourselves that maybe we don't know about, or really have thought about, in times that are easygoing, or in times that are the norm, right? What we're used to. So something like this that brings out, all the dross, I think can be helpful. And it's definitely, I want to view it as a time. I think the pastor at my church had really put it well when he was talking about, this is Pastor Apple. He's talking about how this is a time to really reflect, and it's like a season of Lent, because we are fasting we may not be going to church in the next couple of weeks to fellowship and communion with our fellow believers in person, right? And that really does take away from the community aspect. But there is a time of fasting that we are taking from, say, the Lord's Supper. And I think this is a good time to really be reflective, to approach God in prayer, and to ask Him to help strengthen us through this time, but also in that strengthening, to reveal to us where we are weak, so that He can show His strength. Right. So for this week, just continue to converse, continue to pray, and help those out who need it. So in conclusion, remember the life that you have been given and the life that you have received includes every area of life. Why should current events be the exception? God bless.